In the coastal kingdom of Dakari, the people lived in harmony. The kingdom was ruled by King Boma and Queen Ebifa. King Boma inherited the throne from his late father, King Tonye. King Tonye ruled for about 25 years before he died. It was traditional for the eldest son to take over the throne, and that is how King Boma was installed as the Ewe Dakari of Dakari Kingdom. King Boma had a younger brother called Daye, who was envious of him and thought that he deserved to be the king because King Boma had spent a major part of his life outside Dakari Kingdom. He had also been by their father's side, assisting him until his last day, while Boma was away working in the city. Daye felt that when it was time for him to reap the fruit of his labor, his elder brother came from the city to take his place as the king of Dakari Kingdom. However, he felt some form of relief knowing that he was next in line. His wife would often tell him that the throne was rightfully his because he had labored for it and understood the plight of the people better since he has been in Dakari all his life. Lost in thought, Daye replied that it was just a matter of time before the throne would be his. His wife laughed and reminded him that it will only be his position if his brother did not have a male child. Daye screamed out of anger, "Never! That will not happen. I will make sure I collect what is rightfully mine." From that day, he started plotting on how to eradicate his brother and get the throne. One day, he visited a powerful native doctor to ensure that the queen, his brother's wife, only had female children. A few months later, the queen became pregnant, and Daye ran to the native doctor to check the sex of the child. It was a boy. Daye was apprehensive. "This cannot happen. Never. Baba, please, do something," he pleaded. The native doctor smiled and gave him a magic ring. He told him that all he had to do was to shake hands with the queen wearing the magic ring, and that would change the sex of the baby. Daye did as he was told, and 9 months later, the queen delivered a bouncing baby girl. When the queen got pregnant again, Daye did the same thing to change the sex of the baby. After 5 years, the queen got pregnant for the third time. Daye tried the same trick, but received an urgent call from the native doctor 7 days later. When he arrived, the native doctor told him that the magic ring was not potent enough to change the sex of the child coming. The native doctor said the child had been ordained by the gods to lead, and no charm will be potent enough to change his destiny. Daye smiled and said, "He can't be born because I must be the next king." The native doctor warned him of the consequences. Daye left the native doctor's shrine angrily. When Daye got home, he narrated his ordeal to his wife, who suggested eliminating both the mother and the baby. Daye decided to assemble an army to fight his brother's government and take the kingdom by force. His wife was excited about the idea and encouraged him to act like a man. Daye started recruiting soldiers loyal to him, promising them a share of his kingdom as reward. A date was fixed for the attack. Daye got swords, horses, armor, and other items needed for the attack. They waited until dusk before launching the attack. Daye's arsonists set the palace ablaze, and they entered, killing the people inside the palace. King Boma, taken unawares, sensed danger and asked his personal guards to escort his wife and the children to a safe place. The queen, heavily pregnant, was accompanied by her trusted maid, Lami. They put them on a horse, but as the guards were about to climb their own horse, they were attacked by Daye's men. The queen and her children, accompanied by Lami, immediately ran away. In the palace, King Boma was trying to escape when he was struck by an arrow. It was his brother Daye that shot the arrow. Too weak to speak, King Boma looked at him with disappointment and regret in his eyes. But Daye was too determined to become king. He watched King Boma die slowly. He conquered the kingdom and forced himself as king. The queen and her children ran to the neighboring village. Lami took her to the village midwife. She was delivered of a baby boy and she named him Tonbra. She died a few days later from the heartache of her husband's death. King Daye, still not satisfied, wanted to be sure that his brother's wife had not delivered the baby. He sent out his warriors and ordered them to slay the child and the mother. Lami heard about the impending visit of the warriors, so that night she packaged Tonbra inside a basket and took him far away to the river that divided the village from Dakari. Holding the basket, she said, "O Queen of the coast, the guardian of the coastal line of Dakari, this is your own, a royal blood. Protect him always." After saying these words, he dropped him and hurried back. The next day, King Daye's men visited, but Lami told them that the queen had died with the child in her womb and even took them to her graveside for confirmation. Meanwhile, the basket Lami dropped was carried through the coastal line and found by the mermaids of the Dakari River. The mermaids, led by the wise and benevolent Nala, took him in and raised him as one of their own. They gave him the gift of breathing and communicating with sea creatures. Tonbra grew up among the mermaids, learning their ways and developing skills underwater. He became a skilled swimmer and warrior, admired by all, with a gift to communicate with all sea creatures. Despite his happy life, Tonbra often felt a longing for something more, a connection to a world he barely knew. The Dakari River often had a frequent visitor named who lived in Dakari Kingdom. Was known for her adventurous spirit and love for the sea. She often spent her days exploring the shoreline and dreaming of freedom from the oppressive rule of King Daye. Tonbra, curious about the world above, often watched from the water. He was drawn to her bravery and kindness, though he never approached her. Unaware of her secret admirer, continued her daily explorations, oblivious to the eyes watching her from the sea. One day, while was collecting shells near the river, she was nearly attacked by a sea snake. She struggled to fend off the reptile, but she couldn't. Just as the snake was about to strike, Tonbra emerged from the water and spoke to it, saving her life. Was shocked to see a young man emerge from the water with such power and grace. Tonbra introduced himself and explained his unique abilities. Was fascinated and grateful, and the two quickly formed a bond. As and Tonbra spent more time together, she told him the stories about the Dakari Kingdom, how their previous king was killed, the story of his wife and son, and the suffering of the people under King Daye's rule. King Daye had imposed heavy taxes, forced labor, and cruel punishment on anyone who opposed him. The once prosperous kingdom of Dakari was now a place of poverty and despair, with hunger overtaking the land as it hadn't rained for 2 years. That night, Tonbra couldn't sleep. Nala, the head of mermaids, asked what was troubling him, and he told her about stories. Nala took in a deep breath and explained everything to him, revealing that he was the son of the king that was killed, as had mentioned. and that the throne of Dakari was rightfully his. Tonbra was deeply troubled by this revelation. He felt a growing sense of responsibility to reclaim his throne and restore peace to his kingdom. When he told what Nala had told him, she encouraged him to reclaim his throne, believing that the suffering were as a result of the gods not choosing King Daye. She volunteered to offer her knowledge of the land when the time came. Tonbra decided to return to Dakari. Agreed to help, using her connections and knowledge of the land to gather allies. The mermaids loyal to Tonbra also promised their support, offering their unique abilities to aid in the battle. Tonbra and began to hatch a plan, carefully considering their strategy. They knew it would not be easy, but with the support of the mermaids and the common people, they believed they could win. Tonbra and set out on their journey back to Dakari. They traveled through the forest and navigated treacherous terrain. Along their journey, they encountered people who had suffered under King Daye's rule and were eager to join their cause to fight and reclaim their kingdom. As word spread of Tonbra's emergence, more and more people rallied to their side, especially when they heard he was an offspring of King Buma. Tonbra's identity as the rightful heir to the throne ignited hope and rebellion among the people of Dakari. Tonbra's warrior clashed with King Daye's army. The mermaids used their ability to control water to flood the kingdom, giving Tonbra's side a significant advantage. The battle was fierce and intense, with both sides fighting endlessly. Proved herself as a brave and resourceful woman, leading a group of villagers in the fight. Tonbra's training and skills made him a formidable warrior. Tonbra emerged victorious. King Daye was captured. "Do you know me?" Tonbra asked. "I am the son of King Buma, the one you killed maliciously." King Daye tried to escape, but he was shot with an arrow, the same way King Buma was killed. His wife was banished from the land. The people of Dakari celebrated the end of tyranny. Tonbra was crowned the king, promising to rule with wisdom and kindness, just as his father has done before him. On the day of the coronation, he saw an elderly woman with two ladies. The elderly woman introduced herself as Lami, his late mother's maid, and the other two ladies as his elder sisters. It was indeed a happy reunion. That day, it rained heavily, which was a sign that the gods had approved him. The people rejoiced gratefully for the return of their rightful king and the promise of a brighter future. Tonbra's bond with grew stronger, hinting a future together as they worked together to rebuild the kingdom. Lima and his sisters were given a place in the palace, and the kingdom began to flourish again. King Tonbra visited the mermaids from time to time to pay homage. One day, as King Tonbra was in the palace attending to some guests, Lami watched from the door and said to herself, "Indeed, destiny can be delayed, but it can't be denied." She smiled.